Okay, hi seventh graders. It's Mrs. Clutch, and I have lots of tools today because I was able to stop by my classroom yesterday. So I was able to pick some stuff up, which I hope is going to make it a little bit easier for you to understand. So today we're going to be doing surface area of cones and cylinders. So what I want to do is I first want to give you the equation for each of them, and then I kind of want to show you why that works. I know some of you are sitting there thinking, just give me the equation. I just want to substitute my numbers in for the variables and solve and be done with it. And that's great and all, but we do want to make sure that you understand why those numbers are working, and why the formula works, so that you can use it when you need it for other things. So we're going to start with a cone. Look at that. See, now I have a whiteboard here. So the area of a cone is, the surface area, I should say, to find the surface area is pi r, and there's an L, and that L is actually slant height. So we have pi RL plus pi r squared, and that's the surface area. I'll leave this up for a second. And here I have a net of a cone. So we're talking about everything that you can touch when it's all folded. Now, granted, it's super hard to fold these nets when they're made out of paper, but you can kind of see here. So that pi r squared that we have here is the surface area, or the area of this circle. That's why that works. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The pi r times the slant height. So the pi we have there is, because we are looking at trying to find the area of this, we have the circle. So we need to multiply it by its radius, and it's the slant height. Again, we're not doing the diameter because this ends up being a triangle. Obviously, there's a curve there, but this ends up being a triangle. So we actually are taking half the diameter, which would then in turn be the radius. And we are multiplying that by the slant height. Now, if you are given this height, what we end up having to do is use the Pythagorean theorem to find then what the slant height is going to be. We're not going to be doing that in this case. So again, that is why this surface area formula works. Again, here is the actual surface area formula. I'm going to leave it up again for you here, which again is surface area is pi r, that is the slant height, plus pi r squared. Giving you a chance to write it down. Okay, so now let's go over a couple problems. So we're going to go over 1 and 3 on this. So again, I'm just going to leave this up here and there. And I'm going to look at number 1. Number 1 is giving me the slant height of 6. So I'm going to substitute 6 in for the slant height. I have my 3.14 for pi. But then I need to find what my radius is. Well, you can see here in number 1, what are they giving me? That's right, the diameter. So I need to divide that by 2 to get the radius. So this is going to be 3, and this is going to be, oh, not 3, 2, and this is going to be 2 squared. So now I have the surface area equals 3.14 times 2 times 6 plus 3.14 times 2 squared. So when I add all those together or multiply those out, I get 37.68 plus 12.56. And finally, I'm going to add those two together, and I'm going to get the surface area of that is going to be 50.24 inches squared. I'll leave this up here for just a second so you guys can see what I did. So again, the formula is surface area equals pi r times the slant height. And again, let's talk really quickly about what that slant height is. When you go to the doctor and you get measured for your physical, they don't measure you going down like this. That would be the slant height. It's a little bit longer than the actual height. So we do want to be using the slant height here for this kind of surface area. All right, we're gonna move on and do number 3. Now, keep the same formula. Now number 3 has already given us the radius. So now I'm just gonna substitute in the slant height and the radius, and I'm gonna solve. So I'm just gonna rewrite this out again. Surface area equals 3.14 times 6 times 14 plus 3.14 times 6 squared. And here I have my mathematical problem, my mathematical equation that I only need to now multiply and solve. So when I multiply everything out, I get 263.76 plus 113.04. And then last, surface area is 376.8 centimeters squared. Remember that the labels are centimeters squared, or whatever that label is squared, because it's surface area. Even though it is a 3-dimensional figure, we're still using surface area. So then it's still a squared. It's not a cube. We're not talking volume. So that is for a cone. Next, we're going to move into a cylinder. So a cylinder, I'm going to just write this down. The equation for a cylinder is, surface area of a cylinder is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. Give you a second to write that down. 2 pi RH, obviously the r is the radius and the h is the height, plus 2 pi r squared. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this screen for just a second so we can go back. So now, here's my net of my cylinder. So you can see, I fold it all up, that 2 pi r squared is just our circles. We know the area of a circle is pi r squared, so that's one of them. The reason that it's 2 is because there are 2 circles. But watch what happens here. If I go around this circle, so I'm folding this down, I have around this circle. What I am saying is the circumference around this circle is the same as this length of the rectangle. Again, look why. Here's the circle. The distance around the circle is the exact same as the length of that rectangle, which is why we have the 2 pi r, which is then the circumference of that circle. That would be the length of the rectangle. Then that extra h is just the height of the rectangle. We could also say it's pi d without the 2. It would be the same thing, but this is just usually the formula you will see, so we want to give this to you. So let's go back then and look at a couple examples of how to find area of a cylinder. So we're going to look at number 2. We know we have a diameter of 3, which means the radius is, that's right, 1.5. So I'm going to add, substitute my numbers in, and then I'm going to solve this equation. So I have surface area equals 2 times 3.14 times my radius, which is 1.5, times my height, which is 4, plus 2 times 3.14 times my radius squared, which is 1.5. See that here for you. Okay. Then I'm just going to multiply those out. And I get, I've already done this ahead of time, 37 68/100 plus 14 13/100. And when I finally add those together, my surface area of that cylinder on number 2 is going to be 51 81/100 feet squared. Okay, now let's look at number 5. Number 5 is the exact same thing, but notice the difference here. They are giving us the radius this time instead of the diameter. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to use my formula, which again is 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. So I have 2 times 3.14 times 6 times the height of 8 plus 2 times 3.14 times 6 squared. I'm going to go ahead and multiply those. You can be doing this at home as well. And I get 301 and 44 hundredths plus 226 800ths. Notice that I'm still doing this one step at a time. You can multiply everything together, but don't try to add, especially if you're not using your scientific calculator. This is an 8th grade standard, so you would be able to use the TI-30 calculator that was on your supply list. But just so you know that you do want to make sure you're showing this, because if you're using any other type of calculator, it might do order of operations for you. Even though in your head you know what you want it to do, if you're not typing it in that exact same way, there's going to be a few problems. So we end up with our surface area of that cylinder being 527 and 52 hundredths yards squared. So that is the area of a cylinder. I'm sorry, the surface area of a cylinder and the surface area of a cone. I will have another video about finding the surface area of a sphere, and we'll do that. It'll be another separate video for you. So there are 4 problems from today for you to go over and do on your own, and the answers will be posted. Hope everyone's doing well. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.